Phillies have the day off. Eagles minicamp week is in the books, although some other NFL teams are still in their minicamps this week. All that and more this hour, plus I can't not talk about TJ McConnell last night. How about them apples? Pacers go off. You know, the Pacers are the sixth biggest underdog in terms of sports betting coming into an NBA Finals series. And if they win, they would be the largest underdog to win a championship since the 2010 Dallas Mavericks over the Miami Heat. You guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live as always on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Rob Motti from the Associated Press. He's going to join us to talk a little bit of NFL because when you look around the league right now, you realize that there's a lot of chatter about a lot of other teams. And I don't want to, overemphasize this or try to act like it's, more than it is. But I think it is a legitimate big deal that the Eagles are one of the only teams in the NFL that had everyone show up for mandatory camp. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, one of the others, so we can read into that with Rob Motti coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. But I do think that for a sport that is so hyper-dependent on teamwork, if you don't have everyone show up for camp, it definitely is a bit of a perplexing situation, right? But before we get to the Eagles, I did want to draw a thread from the Birds to the Phillies. And we were talking about last night about how, the problem with the Phillies right now is they lack the depth in the lineup in order for me to have the confidence in them to win a championship. And what I want to know from you guys at 609-403-0973, in years past, but before the current run, right? One of the conversation points we had here on 97.3 ESPN was about this team, this organization, the Phillies. How interested and invested are you in the team? And the reason why I bring that up is because this has not been a great summer so far down at the Jersey Shore in terms of weather. They say today is the hottest day so far of 2025. And this weekend, there's going to be some scattered showers and thunderstorms. There's a 30 to 60% chance of rain this weekend, depending on who you ask. And so, for a lot of people in the summertime, you're escaping the city. You're running away from Philadelphia area to the shore, right? Attendance has still been good this year for the Phillies. Are the Phillies still a good enough team that you are going to be engaged all summer long? Or when that weather gets even brighter and the sun gets even hotter, and when the weather cranks up, are you going to be like beach, boardwalk, instead of go Phils? And the reason why I ask that is also because there has never been a point in my lifetime where people did that with football. Now, maybe part of that is because of the environment I grew up in, right? I did not grow up in an environment that had a bad attitude about the game. There were always people in my family who maybe had a negative perspective or attitude toward the professional sports entities and the money that's being made and some of the bad characters in the sports. But there was never an attitude of hatred or dismissiveness or disinterest in the game itself. Maybe you didn't care about the other stuff, So I look at the Phillies. I remember when I was younger, there was a time it was very easy to get tickets to Phillies games. Okay, I grew up in an environment where we didn't really have a lot of resources. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. But when the Phillies tickets got inexpensive, it became a day trip, right? You jump in the car. When I moved down to South Jersey, you jump in the car and you make your way up to Philadelphia. And it became an afternoon at the ballpark, right? But you could get those tickets at those prices because other people were uninterested in going, right? You could get tickets at pretty decent prices because other people, they were at the shore and we were like, nah, we're leaving the shore, right? I used to live in Seattle City so for years. And so the idea was that when the whole world came to the shore, Seattle, for vacation, we piled in the car and got out of town sometimes to escape the crowds. And one of the places we would go was to the ballpark. There's never been that attitude when it comes to the Birds. There's never been an attitude, even when the Eagles stunk. Eagle fans still cared. Eagle fans were still invested, maybe begrudgingly invested because of rich guys like Rich Kotite, but they were still there. They were still invested. They were still anchored in to the team. There have been years with the Phillies, you run into people, they don't even know who's on the team. I mean, how many people can even tell you who was on the team 10 years ago? Not many people. So I wonder, is the Phillies still good enough this summer to be competitive that people actually care and have an interest in them? Or when the summer weather finally breaks, are you going to say, hey, time to go to the shore, time to hit the beach, boardwalk, your favorite restaurants? Now, back to the Eagles. There's a lot of turmoil going on around the NFL right now. A lot of teams have players holding out. A lot of teams have players who want out. Cincinnati Bengals, the Miami Dolphins, the Pittsburgh Steelers, just to name a few. But the Eagles are one of the few teams that has everyone at mandatory minicamp. But the Eagles are also one of the youngest rosters in the NFL right now. The number of young players who are on this team, players who are 28 and younger, is among the most in the NFL. So it's very encouraging, not just for the young players to be at minicamp, but for the veteran players to be there as well. And as Andrew DeCecco pointed out to Mike Gill earlier on the Sports Bash during Football at 4 here on 97.3 ESPN, we're not sitting here critiquing every play at minicamp practice, okay? We're not sitting here and being like, ooh, did you see that pass from Jalen Hurts to whoever? But what we are looking at is to see, one, who shows up, two, who acts like they actually want to be there, and three, who's putting in the work. And the name that keeps being brought up this week about what he is going to be or what he could be is Jihad Campbell. I think the Eagles have a very, very special player in Jihad Campbell. And he's going to be paired with another special player that I will touch on momentarily. But what makes Campbell special, what makes Campbell unique, what makes Campbell different for an organization like Philadelphia is the reality that Jihad Campbell is still putting in reps, even though he can't put on the helmet and pads and do any of the major physical drills because he's still recovering from the labrum surgery. But because he is at camp, he is still running through the drills that help him learn the defense. He's working one-on-one with Vic Fangio, learning about exactly what he can and can't do in the defense, what is expected of him in the defense. And it is a real-time learning operation. this young man, he doesn't have to be doing all the work that he's doing, but he is. And he's going to be on the defense with another young player who I think is going to have a massive year, and that's Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith still has a huge brace on his arm. Remember, he tore his triceps in Super Bowl 59. And because he tore his triceps, he had every excuse to not be out there and running around doing drills. But he is. He's out there putting in the work. He's doing it all. Even in voluntary camp, he was out there doing it all. And I think it is a great sign that there is a buy-in from these young players. There is a commitment from every player on this team to make them better. And while I still feel like they need one more veteran, okay, I wrote the article on 973ESPN.com earlier this week. I'm not very interested in Jair Alexander because he missed 20 games over the last 2 years combined. I'm not interested in that. But if you told me they walked out in training camp at the end of July with a Justin Simmons at safety, a Von Miller who's an edge rusher, those are the kind of players that frankly would get me a little excited. Because I feel like having that level of veteran leadership would be a massive benefit, would be a massive value for a locker room that has lost a ton of veterans. Brandon Graham retired. Josh Sweat left in free agency. Whether you were a fan of his or not, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a huge part of this team's success on and off the field last season. Darius Slay. Listen, people made fun of him for the podcast, but he was a huge mentor for guys like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So you lose all of those guys. How are you replacing them? And while it's great that this organization has so many guys showing up for camp, in the building, working out, and I love it. I absolutely do. But I would also love to see you walk into training camp with an inexpensive free agent who might be able to benefit this team. Now, as time goes on, I'm feeling more and more like Justin Simmons is not an option. I feel like they would have signed him by now if he was a guy, but this organization seems very committed to the Drew Makuba, Sidney Brown, Tristan McCollum trio at the safety position. The two players who I think are still an option, Von Miller is a free agent. I know he's an older player, but the future Hall of Famer, he is somebody who has immediate cachet and walks in a locker room. And at 36 years old, in a part-time role last year, he only played 25% of the Buffalo Bills snaps last year, and he had 6 sacks. When you're only playing a quarter of a team's snaps and you get 6 sacks, that means your fastball is still there. You know, what's the Toby Keith song is, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I'll ever be. I feel like that's what Von Miller is. Von Miller's not going to give you 3 downs of production, but you sign him for an inexpensive contract, he could be a guy that can help Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt and all these guys and be like, hey, I know you guys want a championship, but I got 2. Let me tell you what it takes to win the second one. Well, let's grab Mario what he thinks coming up on the other side. You guys can join the conversation as always. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN. Mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live as always on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig.
For over 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's the construction reduction sales event all month long at Matt Black Kia. Right now, put zero down with 1.9% APR for 60 months on every new 2025 Kia Sportage or Sorento in stock. Plus, we want your trade, any make, any model, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. We'll even lower your current car payment or give you 2 years of free maintenance on any new Kia. That's lower payments, more peace of mind, and free maintenance at mattblackkia.com. It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia. Call 215-703-8526 for details.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. Major League Baseball, the Phillies are off today. They'll start a 3-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays on Friday. Ranger Suarez is scheduled starter in the series opener. He is 4-1. Kevin Gausman will go for the Blue Jays. Philadelphia coming off a 7-2 victory Wednesday against the Chicago Cubs, where they took 2 of 3 in that series. Tonight, it's Game 4 between Florida and Edmonton in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Panthers have a 2-1 series lead after winning Game 3 on Monday 6-1. Edmonton trying to even up the series before Game 5 on Saturday. NBA Finals, the Pacers beat Oklahoma City 116-107 in Game 3 Wednesday night, taking a 2-1 lead in that series. Benedict Mathurin led the Pacers with 27 points coming off the bench, and they outscored the Thunder by 14 points in the fourth quarter. Game 4 will be on Friday in Indianapolis. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Find what you love and love what you find at Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly, B21.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. The wind will calm down and temperatures will gently fall off after sunset this evening. That's around 8:30 p.m. these days. Tonight's weather should be nice and quiet with a few clouds overhead, low 68. Partly to mostly cloudy tomorrow. High comes down to 78 with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, especially at night. Saturday, we face hit or miss showers, especially early and late. Lots of clouds, high 75. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
When businesses thrive, communities score. That's why Bank of America is the official bank of FIFA Club World Cup here in New York, New Jersey. And our more than 280 local business specialists are ready to help your business win. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com/local business. Bank of America, official bank of FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
George from Summers Point, we'll get to your texts and more coming up this hour. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. A Sea right now as promised. Joining us on Game Night, well, he's actually supposed to be on vacation with his family, but he was kind enough to step away because we got some questions for Rob Motti from the Associated Press joining me here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, I know family time is important to you, so I appreciate you making some time to jump on to this evening. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Nice, refreshed, and relaxed.
So you're better off than me. Got it. First of all, before I get to the football questions, if I can loop you in to the general Philly sports question, because you're a Philly guy, you know the area, and you're familiar with this. There was a time where, many times, people are not diehard about the Phillies as they are about the Eagles. The Eagles, people are tuned in every week, good or bad. Whereas the Phillies, it's like, well, if the team stinks, we'll go to the shore, we'll go to the beach, right? So for you, Rob, do you look at this team at all, this Phillies team, and be like, you know what, I don't have to go to the game, I don't need to pay attention as much? Or are you saying, nah, they're a playoff team, I want to watch?
Well, I'm on vacation, and I don't cover the team, yet I'm paying attention to every game. And if not watching it on my little iPad or phone or whatever, as my wife looks over and nods with a disgusted look because I'm taking up time watching the Phillies. So I'm invested, and it's incredibly disappointing to see where they were just 12, 15, 20 games ago. And they're 3-7 in the last 10, and I'm sure it's worse than that. To fall 5.5 behind the Mets, they need to get Bryce Harper back healthy. They need to get Aaron Nola back healthy. But yeah, it's always been like that, Josh, for maybe the past 2 decades. For as long as I've been in the media in Philly, I know growing up, Phillies were huge, maybe a little bit more so than the Eagles during. No, there was the Buddy Ryan era, and the Eagles were back. Like it was always, when I did radio in Philly for 4 years, you can talk Eagles anytime in July or June or May or whenever it is, and you'd have conversations, you'd have people calling, and the Phillies would not they wouldn't generate that even after that run, from 2007 to 2011 and then back. And I left right before the next run from 22 on, so I lived through the Gabe Kapler, or I did radio through the Gabe Kapler years, which was a little bit of a struggle, but still, you had the whole 1 year where you were, should they sign Bryce Harper or should it be Manny Machado? That was like the entire year before they went and got Bryce Harper, and then there was all the excitement generated after that. But I think they'll be in the playoff mix, and it's just a matter of how healthy they're going to be going into October. And we saw what they did as a wild card team a few years ago. You saw what the Mets did as a wild card team last year. All you got to do is get in and then be healthy and have that top of the rotation clicking. But it's clicked before. It's the hitting that's really hurt them in the past 2 or 3 postseasons.
Rob, let's flip it over to the football. You mentioned we talk Eagles year-round and people will be interested. So let's start with this. The Eagles are one of the few teams that had everyone at mandatory minicamp, right? And they even had the guys who were injured. Jahad Campbell, he's recovering from a torn labrum. He's going through certain drills that don't involve contact. Nolan Smith, he's coming off a torn tricep tendon. He's out there practicing with one of those bulky braces. What does it say to you, Rob, that a team that won the championship, that everyone showed up and everyone was at mini camp, all there and accounted for?
It's impressive. I wasn't keeping track of all the I know the 49ers also were among them. But it just shows what the culture is like in Philly with that organization and with the Eagles. After winning a Super Bowl, you know what's next. Remember when they won the first one and Doug Peterson said, now this is the new norm, and they had some success. They went back to the playoffs, but they couldn't get to another Super Bowl until 22 with Sirianni. If they want to sustain success, they've got to act like champions, and champions show up, work hard, day in and day out, and I think this team is kind of built to be able to sustain that success. They've got a ton of talent. They were able to supplement that talent in the off season. They lost some, but they're still going in, to me, as the team to beat, not just in the NFC East, but the whole NFC, the whole NFL. As the great Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man until somebody knocks off the Eagles. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. They got the right mindset, and they're doing it the right way.
You just mentioned about them being the man. It just still feels like there are some pockets of, the football verse that looks at the Eagles and doesn't fully respect them, right? It's like, well, they won, but it almost feels like, when the Eagles won their first championship, Rob, it was like, elation. It was like everyone was happy. And now it's like they won it this time, and there's pockets of people out there who are like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, what is it about this team? Is it the people just not liking the Eagles organization? Do you think people just have these predisposed biases against some of these players? Like, you're someone who covers the whole league. Like, is there legitimately a bit of an anti-Eagles sentiment out there?
I'm actually a little disappointed by some of the, I would say, lack of respect for Jalen Hurts, because this is a guy who's had to prove himself every year, and then he goes out and he's Super Bowl MVP. Like, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the first time they met in the Super Bowl, except for the costly fumble and the Chiefs win. But his stats and you can't overlook the fumble. But last year it was clear. He completely outplayed him, won with Super Bowl MVP. And I feel like there's still people out there who won't put him in the top 5. And it's interesting because we're coming up on, I think in about a couple of weeks, we like to do the AP's top 5, right? It's something I started a few years ago, top 5 at each position. And I'm seeing some of the ballots filter in, and it's just 10 of us, 10 guys across the country, 10 pro football writers across the country for the AP, and we do this. And I'm just taking a quick look, a peek while on vacation to see where folks are putting Jalen Hurts, and it's like 4th, 5th, and I understand the one that I have issue with. I understand putting Patrick Mahomes ahead of Jalen Hurts. He's won 3 Super Bowls, fine. The one I have issue with is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's been an outstanding regular season football player, but he has not performed anywhere close to Jalen Hurts in the playoffs in January, where it counts. So if I'm not going to give away because I haven't figured out what my top 5 is going to be, but that'll be one right there where I'll have Jalen Hurts ahead of Lamar Jackson. But I feel like more people around the league just keep waiting. Even after the season he had in 22 where he was runner-up for MVP, the questions were, well, is he going to take a step back? And he didn't. And he just got better. He took a step back and then got better.
Rob Meyer from the Associated Press joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig back here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios of Atlantic City. Rob, I had wrote an article this week at 97.3 ESPN.com, but I still feel like I would like to see the Eagles bring in one more veteran on the defensive side of the ball, because I feel like the retirement of Brandon Graham, guys like Slay and C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving, I still feel like there can be a void filled in that department. So if Howie Roseman called you when we're done with this conversation, Rob, okay, and he said, Rob, should I sign Von Miller or should I trade for Trey Hendrickson? What would your advice to him be?
Sign Jair Alexander. Did he sign yet? He didn't sign, right?
Oh, I have zero interest in Jair. The guy's missed 20 games the last 2 years. Too injury prone. Yeah, I'm not interested.
He's not on your list.
Nope.
I love Trey Hendrickson, and I think he's not only a great player, he's still in his prime. Von Miller, I'm not sure what Von Miller still has left, but Trey Hendrickson is a guy who's going to be extremely expensive to pay and to acquire. I would never say never. I just don't know that they can bring in Trey Hendrickson with the contracts that they're going to have to pay as well. And coming off the 2 seasons that he's had, he's going to command a big-time $30+ million a year. So you'd be paying for just an incredible player, an incredible person, but that's going to be hard to fit in. Von Miller obviously is cheaper, and I just don't know what he has left. I don't know, Josh. I don't know that they need anything right now to go into the season as the team to beat, barring injury. And they could have some setbacks, things happen, whatever in training camp. But I think they're going to go in and like Jahad Campbell might be that piece, and although he's a rookie, but he's that piece that they're going to add. Probably he's going to practice. Vic Fangio said sometime in August, and Nick's not putting any timeline on it. Like even if he's not even if he's not ready till October, or whatever, like he could eventually be like sort of a trade deadline piece, because by the time he's ready to go full bore, I just don't think I would never say no with Howie. I just don't think I haven't heard anything that gives me any indication that Trey Hendrickson is a viable option for the Eagles. Like they're not on that list. And the Bengals started out wanting a lot for him, and it's still there. They are not going to move off of what their asking price would be for teams. I had one GM tell me way back in March that he thought it was going to be 2-1 plus. And I was like, no, it's not. I can't see for a guy who's he's not in his mid-20s. He's, what is Hendrickson, 30? About 30. To be 30, somewhere around there.
Yep.
I just didn't think he was going to be 2 1s plus for Trey Hendrickson. And I almost wanted to see him traded just so I can go back to the GM and be like, see, I told you so. But then if it is, then he can tell me so. So I don't know, Josh. I think that they're okay where they are right now. Von Miller, I'd be concerned a little bit about. He's been on a Super Bowl championship team. He's had success. But, he had that situation. When was it? A year ago, 2 years ago, off the field, and it's not anything that's lingered or anything along those lines. But it causes me to pause before I would want to go after Von Miller.
I got you. I mean, my thing with Von Miller was he only played 25% of the Bills' defensive snaps last year, and he had 6 sacks. So to me, it's like you got a guy who had 6 sacks but only was on the field for 25% of the season. It's kind of like I feel like but maybe there is an off-field thing. Maybe there's something that we don't know about, and we know Howie and the Eagles are very, very tuned into that. My only thing with
Trey, know who I'd rather have than Von Miller? Brandon Graham. I'll take BG for another run. I mean, there's no greater way to write your story. I'll get to see BG in next month for an event. But hey, if he keeps himself in shape and come trade deadline time.
Rob, I gotta tell you, he says he's already losing weight. Like his goal is he wanted to be in beach body condition. So I don't know if he weighs enough anymore.
Oh man, a lot of guys do that too. A lot of guys right after they retire, they just want to go down. And I remember Joe Thomas with the Browns, like completely slimmed down. They stopped eating the way they used to eat. Yep. So if that's the case, forget it with BG.
Yeah, I think BG said he's already lost. I think it's like 20 pounds already, or something like that. So
20's not bad. You can put that back on. 20's okay. I'm doing my best to try not to put that 20 on during vacation. So yeah, 20's easy. If he gets in the 30s and the 40s, then. But also, it's a matter of, are you working out? Like, you can lose fat, or you maintain the muscle. That's the most important part.
That's true. That's very true. I will say
he had a little bit of a gut. He certainly did.
Yeah. The other guy I thought of, and I got to tell you, Rob, I'm a little surprised the Eagles haven't signed him, but I think the Eagles seem to feel like they're pretty set at this position. Justice Simmons has been very vocal on a plethora of platforms that he wanted to reunite with Vic Fangio. And I really thought when we got past June 1st, when that roster hold of BG came off the books, that Simmons would have been the guy that went out and got, but they seem to be pretty intent, according to Vic Fangio and what we've seen on the field at the mini camps and OTAs. They are committed to this trio competition of the rookie Drew Makuba, Sidney Brown, and Fangio keeps bringing up Tristan Column.
Yeah, and obviously with Reed Blankenship there, Tristan McCollum is somebody who could potentially play his way. Now, McCobb is one of they still didn't sign him yet this week, right? And there's never going to be holdouts anyway.
He didn't sign, but he was on the field at the NovaCare Center. So apparently he don't care.
Yeah. So I think, I'm surprised from the sense that Justin Simmons made it clear, and I guess that's what you got to do when you don't have too many teams calling. And he was a guy who was a second-team All-Pro 4 times in Denver. He's someone who's had Patrick Mahomes' number. I think he's had a handful of interceptions against Patrick Mahomes. Then last year goes to Atlanta and doesn't play as well as he had been used to. Was it the system? Was it the fit? What was it? Vic Fangio, right? His familiarity with him. It makes a lot of sense. And I think this is one where the Eagles will see what they have with the young guys, with Brown, with Mukaba. Obviously, they know what they have in Blankenship as one of the starters. And if Justin Simmons doesn't sign with someone else, he's a guy you can end up with in August if you wanted. If you go back to the Ronald Darby trade way back when, that came for Jordan Matthews in August of the 2017 season. And Ronald Darby just retired. Did he just retire? I think I saw that.
Yeah,
which
he retired.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, Ronald Darby was a key piece of the defense that gave up 500 yards in a Super Bowl win. But they could still. Justin Simmons is still a guy who, if they don't feel comfortable, if they have an injury, as long as he's not signed somewhere, they can go out and get. But it seems like they're committed, and they're committed to these guys. He won't cost them that much. I don't think he would be probably a 1 year in the $4.5 million, 4 or 5 somewhere. I think I got to see what he made last year with the Falcons, but it would have been more than he would make this year. So I still think it's a name to keep an eye out for.
I'll pull it up right now. Justin Simmons last year, he signed a 1 year, $7.5 million deal last year. It was a signing bonus of 4.75. It was a fully guaranteed 7.5, so that's what he got paid last year.
Yeah, he's not getting that this year, obviously.
No.
And so it's an option if they don't feel good about what they have, but it looks like they feel confident enough going into training camp with the trio that they have there.
He's Rob Motti from the Associated Press at Rob Motti on the Twitter X platform, and he joined us live from vacation. Rob, I appreciate you jumping on. I have always enjoyed our conversations, and we'll be making the official announcement tomorrow about what's coming with the stuff here at 97.3 ESPN. But I do want to thank you for being a part of things as much as you have been. I look forward to you being a part of what I'm doing moving forward as well.
Man, I wish you the best. I'm excited for you. I know you're going to continue to do great things, and you have been doing great things. Love your work ethic. Love the way you just really bring the stories to life and the way you kind of interact with the fans and everybody, Josh. So keep up the great work, man, and just honored to have been a part of it for all these years.
And don't forget, Faith from the Field, still Saturday and Sunday mornings right here. Rob Motti on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, you can go back to your family now. Thank you.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Josh Hennig back here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. We got George from Summers Point, Joey D. and Ventnor. Your text coming up next at 609-403-0973. And your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And as always, we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Traverse and Corvette excludes prior sales.
Have you heard? Nobody beats a Bennett Chevy deal, and I mean nobody. All this month, Bennett Chevy is selling new Chevys at the GM Supplier employee price. Plus, you keep all the rebates, saving you as much as 20% on your new Chevy. That's right, you keep all the rebates, and you pay the same GM Supplier employee price we pay. That's up to 20% in savings. And you can save even more with available 0% financing. Thinking about buying pre-owned? Well, again, nobody beats Bennett Chevy. Just bring us any clunker you can, and we'll give you a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned on our lot. Yes, I said a minimum 10 grand for your junk. Who else is going to make fantastic offers like Bennett Chevy? Nobody. That's who. Plus, you'll never experience any haggles or hassles or need to negotiate because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Enter Introducing the new Dell AI PC powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. It helps do your busy work for you, so you can fast forward through editing images, designing presentations, generating code, debugging code,
summarizing meeting notes, finding files, managing a schedule,
and responding to Jim's long emails. Leaving all the time in the world for the things you actually want to do. No offense, Jim. Get a new Dell AI PC at dell.com/AI-PC. How those ahead stay ahead.
You could think you found your dream home online. The kitchen island looks perfect for your inner chef. The backyard, a paradise for your green thumb. And that extra room, hello walk-in closet. But here's the twist. The lot next door just got rezoned for years of construction. And this sound, yeah, you're going to be hearing a lot of that. Don't let your dream home turn into a nightmare. Work with the expertise and ethical training of a Realtor, here to guide and help protect you from the surprises you didn't see coming. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors, right by you.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ALL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text ALL to 321-321. That's all to 321-321.
Father's Day is Sunday, and if you haven't found a gift yet, don't panic. Just come to Macy's Father's Day sale for gifts that'll make Dad say, this is perfect. Shop designer polos from Lacoste and Tommy Hilfiger, 30 to 50% off. Watches from Citizen and Bulova, 30% off. Fragrance gift sets, boxed and ready to give. Even a 36-piece Cuisinart grill set, now half off. Hurry in! Father's Day is this Sunday, and this sale is happening now at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Another checkup? Why are so many people getting new puppies?
Dr. Kim's veterinary office is littered with cuteness.
We are booked solid for weeks, but who can say no to a puppy, right? Oh, good boy.
She needs to find extra vet techs to get those pups some extra love.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Progressive knows road trips without your pet can be tough.
Hi, this is Next Stop Dog Boarding.
Hi, it's Scott again. How's Squeaks doing? You can tell if he's stressed by his eyebrows. Oh, and his breathing should sound like this.
Scott, Squeaks is exactly the same as last time you called.
Okay, let's talk in 20 to see if anything's changed.
With Progressive, your pet is covered up to $1,000 in vet bills in case of a car accident. So next time, you can take your pet with you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and subject to policy terms.
Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City. A community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, so what you guys say at 609-403-0973. That's where George in Summers Point chimes in. Hey, Josh, I think the Delaware Valley will make its decision on staying tuned to the Phillies this year after the trade deadline. If they do not score several players for that date, I believe most of the fans in the area will check out and start looking forward to Eagles season. That's from George in Summers Point. Very astute there by George. I tend to agree with him. I think that the Phillies are kind of waffling into the complacency arena, right? The arena that the 76ers have lived in for the last few years. There is a level of complacency that I think a lot of people are... They don't want to go there, but if the team forces them to go there, they will. So it's a very astute point by you. I do agree. I think that if the Phillies don't make a significant move or moves at the deadline, I think the fan base is going to disconnect until the postseason. I think they'll be excited when the postseason gets here, but I think that August and September might be a lost cause almost. And I hate putting it that way, but you're right. If you don't get the players to get the fans excited, if you don't get the players to, because George Summer's point, I think you know as well as I do. Fans are not as stupid as organizations think they are. I think that the Philly sports fan is well aware of what this team is lacking. And they don't need Dave Dombrowski to pontificate about this team. I think anybody with two eyeballs can watch the Phillies games and see that this team has limitations. This team is not as good as it should be. And baseball is a team sport that relies on individual performance. And because of that, it's a lot easier to decipher who is or who is not good enough on a team. And so you're right. I think you're right. The Phillies fans will be, they're kind of on cruise control, right? You're on the parkway. You got a long drive ahead of you. You hit the speed limit that's going to be keeping with the flow of traffic. You hit that cruise control and you just let it run. I think that's what the Phillies fans are going to do until the deadline. And then once the deadline hits, they'll make a decision if they're getting off the next exit or not. George Summers Point, thanks for chiming in all in the text board. Joey D. and Ventnor says, I like Von Miller a lot, Josh. He says, baseball question for you. By the way, thank you, Joey D. I appreciate you chiming in. He says, how much would the Phillies and other National League teams have benefited from the DH in years past? How many Phillies teams would have made deeper runs? That's from Joey D. and Ventnor. Oh, boy. Well, if you would have had the DH in 2009, you would have had a reason to keep both Pat Burrell and Raul Ibanez. Man, maybe the 2010 team goes deeper for the Phillies. It's hard to know exactly how many. Maybe you win the 2009 World Series if you have a DH, right? I would say this, Joey D. I think that the DH, for as valuable that it has become today, I don't think it's as valuable as the extra playoff team. Because I think the extra playoff team is an extremely underrated part of the game in that I think a lot of teams treat the trade deadline, they treat roster building, they treat everything differently because of the extra wild card. And so I think when you look around baseball in years past, right, you look at what has happened in the past and you realize that, when the Nationals won the 2019 World Series, only 2 wild card teams got in. And so how would things look differently now that we have a different setup, right? Now that it's a wild card series and not a wild card play-in game. Remember, when the Nationals got in, they had to win a 1-game play-in for the wild card game, and then it was the divisional series. Now we have wild card series, multiple games. Now you have a situation where you have 3 wild card teams. Well, you go back to that season, right? You know who would have been in the postseason who didn't make it? The New York Mets. The New York Mets in 2019 were a very interesting team. I'm just using them as a specific example. And somewhere Mets fans are nodding their head listening to me on 97.3 ESPN. Jacob deGrom was having one of those like supernatural amazing seasons right? A younger Zach Wheeler was kind of coming into his own, right? That was a team that had some real studs in the rotation. Can you imagine in a short series, if you're trotting out there DeGrom and then followed by Syndergaard or Wheeler, how the Mets could have changed that postseason? I'll give you another season where I think that the expansion of the wild card would have greatly impacted things. In 2017, and again, I'm going off of specific teams that I remember. In 2017, there was a specific team that didn't make the postseason. They missed out by one game. That was the Milwaukee Brewers. One game. Under the current rules, they would have made the postseason. Now, why do I go back to the 2017 Milwaukee Brewers? Because they had a team that could score runs, but they also had a team that had some really good pitching. They had guys who all had career years. All these years later, what is that, 8 years ago, right? Nobody knows who Zach Davies, Jimmy Nelson, Chase Anderson are. Nor do we care, right? But you might remember Corey Knebel, the guy the Phillies got. He had a career year that year. Can you imagine if that team got in the postseason? So I'm not saying that Joey D, you're wrong. The DH would have had an impact. But I think the extra wildcard team has changed everything because it changes how teams approach the trade deadline. It changes how teams strategize for the postseason. And it changes who qualifies, who gets in overall. I think that's the biggest factor of all. And that is, I think if I had to say, the DH would have maybe helped some teams. But I think overall, the extra wildcard team, frankly, has been one of the biggest game changers in the sport. Because now that third wildcard team becomes an absolute disruptor. It becomes an absolute game changer for the entire league. Here, I'll give you one more team. It was the 2013 Texas Rangers. They won 91 games, missed the postseason. That Rangers team was a very good baseball team with some interesting stars. That was one of the final years that Adrian Beltre was still, playing in his prime, okay? Nelson Cruz had a very good year that year. That was an older Lance Berkman who was their DH. But furthermore, the real reason why they won 91 games a year, they actually had a good pitching staff. Yu Darvish, that's prime Yu Darvish, by the way, for the young people out there. Martin Perez for all the injuries. He was incredible that year. And that bullpen, they had 3 guys with an ERA under 2. 3. Not 1, not 2, not 3. The closer was Joe Nathan, and they had a lefty named Neil Kotz, who was just absolutely lights out that year. Can you imagine that team getting into the postseason and shaking up the world? But no, they didn't make it because they got beat out for the wild card by the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cleveland Indians. Well, the Tampa Bay Rays were on to win the wild card game, and the Guardians, but the then Indians lost the wild card game. Are we sure the Rays would have won that game if they had to face off with the Rangers? I'm not sure. So I think the DH is less of a factor than just giving people hope. Sometimes having hope can change everything. And that goes back to George from Summers Point's comment on the text board, and that is, the fan base wants to be told why they should believe in you. The fan base wants to have a reason to believe in you, to buy in. If the Phillies don't give the fans a reason to buy in, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And listen, I can only hope that Dombrowski will step away from his sanctimonious position, his attitude that the team is, they're good enough, No, Dave, they're not good enough. They're good enough to win 90 to 95 games. They're not good enough to win a championship. If Dave Dombrowski can admit that, accept that, and understand that, then the Philly fans will be 100% focused through the month of August, except for the days the Eagles have a preseason game. I mean, really, it's only in Philadelphia it's not just Philadelphia, it's all football fans. Football fans treat preseason games like we don't treat a spring training game or an NBA preseason game or an NHL preseason game the way we treat NFL preseason games. It's absolutely wild, but it's true. All right, thanks, Rob Meyer, for joining the show. Thanks for everybody for texting in to the text board. We'll be back tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. We got a special conversation coming up with my buddy Andy McNamara. Will join me tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live, as always, on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And we'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, South Jersey, this is Billy Schwein. Tune in to The Locker Room every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN. Each weekend in The Locker Room, you will get passionate sports talk from a fan's perspective, along with interviews with some of the biggest names in sports. That's every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon in The Locker Room with me, Billy Schwein, on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because nothing could be finer than talking sports with a Schweiner.